The sky is vast, unyielding clockwork of divine geometry, yet it offers no shelter for the living. I can calculate the precise eccentricity of Mars, chart the harmonious dance of the spheres across the cold void, and map the invisible architecture of the cosmos. But I could not measure the depth of the malice that swallowed my mother. Every night, when I look up at that quiet brilliance of stars, I'm pulled backward through the dark, back to the damp stone of that cell in Leonberg. I can still hear the rattling of iron chains on aged wrists. I can see the hollow terror in her eyes, eyes that had watched over my sickly childhood, now condemned simply for brewing bitter herbal teas and possessing a sharp tongue that local cowards could not tolerate. For years, I fought a silent, grinding war against the superstition of a fractured world. I combed through the mountains of legal texts, traveled across kingdoms, and laid my hard-won academic standing bare, just to pry her from the jaws of the pyre. We won her freedom, on paper at least. She walked out of that prison alive, but that cell broke something fundamental inside her, a quiet erosion of the spirit that no mathematical formula or planetary table could ever repair. She faded away and died just months later, leaving me with a grief far heavier than any vacuum. The universe is governed by laws of breathtaking beauty and absolute order. Why, then, is the earth below us so profoundly, hopelessly broken? I'm Brandon.
And I'm Courtney, and welcome to the Time Travelers Club season finale. All right, folks, it's been a long journey. Maybe not as long as last time, but definitely still a long one. And we finally reached the end of it. But before we close the chapter on Germanic witchcraft and the later witch hunts, we have one more story to tell. So far in the second act, we've talked a lot about the persecutors, but not necessarily too much about the individual stories of those who were persecuted. And there's a reason for that. Because many, or rather the majority of the victims, we just don't have full accounts. We have maybe what they did for a living and an age, what they were accused of, a confession, and a date of execution. And that's it, if we're lucky. But there is one story that we were able to find where you get a much fuller picture. And today, we are going to discuss that story and share it all with you. In the autumn of 1621, a woman of 74 years old was carried out of a small-town prison in the Duchy of Württemberg, having survived 14 months in chains, the threat of judicial torture, and a legal ordeal so well documented that historians now count it among the most thoroughly recorded witch trials in German history. Her name was Katharina Kepler. She was, by the standards of her age and station, an unremarkable woman. An illiterate widow, a small-scale herbalist, a mother of 7 who had buried more than half of her children. Yet she was also the mother of Johannes Kepler, the imperial mathematician who had already discovered that the planets move in ellipses and who would spend 6 years of his life, at the height of his scientific fame, fighting to keep his mother from the stake. Katharina Kepler's story sits at an uncomfortable intersection of early modern history, the birth of modern astronomy on one hand, and the machinery of the European witch hunts on the other. It is a story about an ordinary woman caught in an extraordinary web of gossip, resentment, superstition, and law, and about the extraordinary son who used the tools of reason, scholarship, and legal argument to save her. This account draws on the surviving trial records, the research of historians such as Linka Rublak, and the biographical tradition surrounding the Kepler family to reconstruct, in as much detail as the sources allow, the life of Katharina Kepler. Her origins, her marriage, her reputation as a healer, her fraught relationship with her famous son, the 2 accusations that nearly cost her life, and the region and society that produced her accusers, and ultimately the legacy that she left behind.
Katharina Kepler was born Katharina Guldenmann on the 8th of November of 1547.
Scorpio!
Mm-hmm. You know, this makes this makes a lot of sense when you think about it. Then, honestly, we're gonna get to that. I mean, like I don't know how much I believe astronomy, but when you know like the astrological signs, like what they're supposed to be, and like her personality, I'm like, all right, okay, maybe. And there's an irony of that since her son's an astronomer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so anyway, this she was born around a place called Leonberg, a small walled town in the Duchy of Württemberg, in the rolling hill country west of Stuttgart in what is today southwestern Germany. She grew up not in Leonberg proper, but in the nearby village of Altingen, which, man, I'm going to be so happy when we're done with these German names. My God. Uh, but I love that. It's like, okay, so there's Württemberg, which is, I mean, it's not Berlin or like Hamburg or something huge that everyone recognizes. Then you've got, okay, but it's not quite Leonberg either. It's like, man, the tiniest blip in the middle of nowhere that you can think of.
I mean,
Um,
she was a country baby.
yeah. Um, so, um, which now at that point was a separate settlement, right? And now it's a district absorbed into Leonberg itself. Her father, Melchior Guldenmann, was an innkeeper by trade, and this was a position of modest but real standing in the small Württemberg community. I mean, which makes sense, right? When you rely on safe places, right, to rest, in these small communities, this might be like one of the biggest buildings in the area, like,
Correct.
and like, people rely on you. So, I mean, it makes sense. Um, and inns were often a hub, of course, of local commerce, gossip, and travel, right? Melicor's fortunes rose over the course of Katerina's childhood, and by the time she was about 20 years old, he had been elected um, Schultheiss. Jesus. I'm sorry. You're going to hear a lot of that. Um, and German's not my main language, as we've learned throughout this entire series.
It's all
Um,
good. It
yeah.
is what it is.
So the Schultheiss, roughly mayor or chief magistrate. I mean, like, then just say mayor, my God, of the town.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and this was a post he held until 1587, right? So if she was born 1547, that was 40 years of her life, right? Um, and this meant that Katerina, whatever hardships she experienced later in life, did not begin her life on the margins of community, right? She was the daughter of a respected local official. Her childhood, however, was not an easy one. Her mother suffered from illness for much of Katerina's early years, which meant that the young Katerina likely took on domestic responsibilities earlier than might have otherwise been expected, which was early then. I can't, but I feel like that, I myself, and I know a lot of people who, whether it was because your parent had mental health issues, physical health issues, cancer, right? Like, I know a lot of people who can totally relate to this.
Oh, absolutely. You take things on earlier than normal. You have
And
to.
I think a lot, and I think a lot of women unfortunately do this, right? It's
Correct.
not to say that boys don't, like clearly I did, but like I just feel like, like you hear like Shania Twain, like Dolly Parton, like celebrities and stuff, right? Who like we're all in this situation, and I think that's because of the domesticity of it all. Um, so yeah. So the Goldenman household, like nearly all households in Württemberg by the later 16th century, was Lutheran. The duchy had been a stronghold of the Reformation since the 1530s, and Katharina was raised within that faith, which would remain central to her identity and to the religious framework, including its beliefs about devil, sin, and providence, within which she and her accusers alike understood the world. And I just want to point this out because I was like starting to like the last two episodes where we talked about like Heinrich and then Philip Adult, like it's like it came off as like maybe it's like all Catholics, and it's definitely not. So like in this
No.
story, we're gonna see it's the Protestants too.
Unfortunately, it's both.
Yeah. So, within which she and her accusers understood that. Blah, 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 sorry. One detail from her extended family would return to haunt her, though, decades later. A female cousin of Katharina's was burned as a witch in the nearby town of Wilderstadt in the oh God, why can't I talk? In the polemical retelling of Katharina's later prosecutors, and in some older popular accounts, this relative was inflated into an aunt who had supposedly raised Katharina herself. So, like,
Good
not,
Lord.
yeah. So it's
Guilt
like,
by
oh,
association. Oh, you
well,
inherited this.
but also like it's inflated. Like, oh, look, she took her into her coven. Like, and modern historians have shown that was an invention. Like as in, like she may not have even been raised by this aunt, maybe didn't even know her, because again, this is not like the modern like last 100 years where like if you lived a couple towns over, you could just go there, in 15 minutes, by car. This is like this would be in like if you were going by foot all day just to get there, right? If it was nearby. And so like when we say nearby, like how near, so she may never have
Mm-hmm.
even met her, but like they saw that connection. They were like honing in on that. Um, and this illustrates something important about the world Katerina inhabited. Family reputation was porous. Rumor could reshape biography within a single generation, and a distant relative's fate could be redeployed as evidence against a woman who had nothing to do with the case. And in modern times, I think for a while we were removed from this, right? And then I
Yes.
think it's weird. Weirdly enough, it's kind of come back, right?
It
Because of the
has.
internet, like nothing's secret. So it's like, oh, like you have a relative that did something real dark and messed up. Like you're known as, oh, wait, that's the guy who's related to that guy who like ate babies. Yikes. You probably don't want to hire
Very
him.
yikes.
Like, which is yikes, but like you, like literally that dude was like my second cousin. Like,
Like, that has nothing to do with me, but all of a sudden we've got blood reputation all over again.
right. Or like you could have like your parent did something terrible, right? Or like they
Mm-hmm.
were a serial killer and like you're contaminated by it, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
like kind of come back a little bit, I think. But so it's not that hard to really imagine. Versus like in the more like, a few years ago, I don't think that was quite like that. You could have a distant relative who was doing, mustache man stuff in Germany, but like that had nothing to do with your family here in America, who
Mm-hmm.
were distant, very distantly related. But then that's also researching and coming back. Um,
Oh, it
you
very
know,
much is. Very,
also
very
you
much.
and like for some people, like you kind of feel bad because it's like okay, like I mean, how long do they? How distant do they have to be before we go? Okay, like
Just
you know,
because you're related doesn't mean you're guilty by association.
like if you had a relationship with that relative over there, would you have a five-arm child? Like if it's no, then maybe we let it go. Like I'm not saying do your cousin. I'm just saying like you know,
Mm-hmm.
um, things you weren't a part of. On the other hand, we also see people who claim that glory. Yeek. Like, ugh.
Yikes.
And I say glory with quotes, air quotes. Please don't think that I think that's good. I would hope you don't think that about me. But like, oh, um,
Would never make that mistake. No.
no, no. So anyway, um, so with that being said, the region of her birth, Württemberg, was one of the many small, fragmented Lutheran principalities of the Holy Roman Empire, which is a mess. The Holy Roman Empire of it all, ruled by the Duke from Stuttgart, but administered locally through officials called Vogte, or bailiffs slash governors, because it's the Holy Roman Empire. Because it's like you have a ruler who lives in this town, but the people who actually do stuff are in a different town. They're called something different.
Absolutely, because streamlining, never heard of her. Witchcraft.
No, exactly. That's the ultimate witchcraft. And eventually they won. so, this was a small town under the thumb of the Duke's appointed officer, because again, we're just going to make it more complicated, with its own consistory, courts, and social hierarchies. And would prove decisive in shaping the course of Katharina's later legal troubles, since so much depended on the temperament and ambitions of whichever official happened to hold local power.
Which is ridiculous.
Well, we saw that with the last episode. If you had been here, ma'am.
I'm sorry. The schedule just didn't line up.
Yeah, no, I know it didn't. Because I just finished an 8-day stretch.
Oh my God.
Like, I had my day off, was recording that last episode.
Yay! And then back at it.
So, I get it.
Katharina married Heinrich Kepler, a soldier, and the son of a well-established local family. His father had served as mayor of the nearby town of Wilderstadt, and the Kepler name itself carried some social weight in the region. On the surface, then, the marriage joined two respectable families of similar standing. Practice, it proved to be a difficult union.
What are you telling me, just because you're of the same social station and your parents set it all up, that it doesn't work out, Courtney?
Oh my God.
What else do they need?
I know.
Like, I also think, if I remember correctly, he's quite a bit older than her, because, of course, so that might hurt it too. But even if they were the same age, I mean,
I don't know.
But at this time, like most cultures, marriage and love, not the same thing.
Correct.
Not at all.
Correct.
And most places, like, love had no place in a marriage. That is not what it's for.
No, it is a political and property disbursement thing. It has nothing to do with, I like this person and want to spend the rest of my life with them.
That is a happy coincidence if it happens. And it only gets worse the higher your social standing. It's why when you have, like, people in history like Pompey, and I mean, it was a little weird, but, like, his much younger wife, that was Julius Caesar's daughter there, and they actually liked each other, and they actually would write love letters and miss each other. People were like, L. Not that he was like 40 years older than her. No,
it was the fact that they actually enjoyed each other.
Yeah, and he was like, yeah, like, go get my wife some stuff because she deserves it. And they're like, what?
Yeah,
I mean, she deserves a knuckle sandwich, don't she? That's what terrible. God damn. Oh.
But Heinrich Kepler was, by most of the accounts, a volatile, restless man.
Knuckle sandwiches.
Given to drinking and to long absences as a mercenary soldier fighting in various conflicts of the era, including campaigns in the Netherlands. The family's fortunes, comfortable at the marriage's onset, declined over the years, worsened by Heinrich's temper and by poor financial decisions, including an unsuccessful attempt to run a tavern You can't drink your own supply.
I was just gonna say that. I'm like, probably because he drank his own supply. Isn't that
Exactly.
the way? Isn't that the way
It
that the
is
drunkard's
though.
like, hey, we should open a tavern?
We should open a tavern, and then you just find them under the barrel, just drinking the whole fucking thing. It's like, God damn it.
And as we discussed in like role of women, it's like she could have came into this with money, but it wasn't hers, right?
No.
So like she gets to watch him spend all of like the dowry, all of whatever, right? And yet she's still expected to keep that shit going, even though she's not the one actually financially in charge, right? So this is unfortunate, but not
Very.
surprising.
Not surprising at all. Katharina and Heinrich had a number of children, though not all survived to adulthood. A very common tragedy in the 16th century, but no less painful for its ordinariness. Their eldest son, born in Wilderstadt on the 27th of December, 1571, was Johannes Kepler, who would grow up to become one of the towering figures of the scientific revolution. The couple also had other children who lived into adulthood, including a son named Christoph and a daughter named Margareta, both of whom would play roles, one supportive, one much less so, in the drama of Katharina's later life. Heinrich's absences grew longer and more permanent as the years went on. Eventually, having spent down much of what remained of the family's inheritance, he abandoned the family outright.
Of course he did.
Of course he did. Dad went out for the milk
I was
and
just
never came back. So
Girl, are we psychically linked? I was about to say that. He went out for milk and things and never came back.
never came back.
Oh my
you know
God.
what? He can't find the damn cow. Everyone's out. They can't. He's still searching.
It's that witch. She keeps stealing the milk. I snorted.
I heard.
And Cersei, the other witch, she's turning me into a pig. Oh my.
Oh my. But he enlisted as a soldier in the Habsburg army, fighting against the Ottoman Turks, and effectively vanished from his children's lives.
He did.
Yes, he is actually believed to have died around 1590, though the precise circumstances remain uncertain.
I'm going to assume either from drinking, getting stabbed by a Turk, or both. Like
probably both. But it is fittingly obscure for a man who had already made himself scarce from his family's daily existence. But this left Katharina, in her early to mid-40s, a woman managing a household essentially alone, raising children through the difficult, threadbare economy of a family whose fortunes had visibly fallen from where they began.
Oh, and I just thought of this too. Like, that's real bad. Because,
that's
like,
real bad.
Well, like, normally it's like, okay, it sucks, but like, if he had died, like, actually died there, right? Like, from whatever. He fell into a ditch, died, and they found him. She would have had inheritance, right? Like, she would have, someone would, right? But because he went off to fuck off, like, and no, like, he could be dead, he could be alive, he could be alive right now, guys. But like,
but because we don't have clear, concise, this is
correct.
Where he is dead, they would give her jack shit.
Well, they're like, well, I mean, he could be alive, he could walk in one day, Exactly. I mean, oh, that's unfortunate.
Very. So it was Katharina, not Heinrich, who was a constant presence in Johannes Kepler's childhood. The parent who was there for illness, schooling struggles, and the day-to-day grind of raising children on a shrinking income. Johannes later remarked, in defending his mother, that he had never once seen her cry. Not when his father abandoned the family, not through the long years of raising her children essentially as a single parent, and not through the later losses and hardships of old age. Whatever.
To be fair, on her defense, I mean, of course she wasn't fucking crying, but at least now he wasn't there to be an asshole.
Yeah.
Either way, the finances sucked, but they sucked when he was around too. At least he's not a leech anymore with whatever they have left.
Correct.
Like, I mean, it sucks to be a single parent and have to deal with that shit. But I think a lot of people can relate to this. Sometimes it's
Mm,
just better if they drop off the face of the earth. Like.
I've got a list, but
Not the list.
not the list. No, I've got a list. There are cemented names in this list. But whatever her personal failings, Katharina Kepler was, by her own son's testimony, a woman of remarkable emotional endurance. After Heinrich's death, Katharina inherited a house along with fields
Oh,
and meadows, property that did give her, unusually for a widow of her station, a degree of independent economic footing. So there was some form of
yeah.
inheritance. So they
Oh,
did
good for
recognize it
her.
at least.
Good for her. Witchcraft.
Witchcraft, absolute witchcraft.
Good for her.
In 1598, she and her family moved into a smaller wine grower's house in Leonberg itself. Her own father, Melchior, spent his final years living with her and under her care. In his will, he specifically thanked her for the selfless act and selfless care she had given him over roughly 5 years, and upon his death, she inherited additional money from his estate. Between her husband's property and her father's bequest, Katharina Kepler became, in the language of the time, a financially independent widow. She was able to support herself and her remaining children without depending on male relatives. Position
Play
of
bet.
real, if modest autonomy, which that
Mm-hmm.
overall makes her a
Slay,
threat.
Slay Queen.
A
We love
slay
that for you.
all day. Love it. Not
Mm-hmm.
having to depend on any men. Yes.
She don't need no
Queen. Do
man.
it.
Mm-hmm. I
But
didn't need his ass anyway.
that puts a huge target on her
Mm.
back, even without the
Yeah.
witch trials and everything.
Yeah.
Because there is I'm gonna label it down as jealousy, and I know this doesn't necessarily
Petty ass bitches.
petty ass bitches. It doesn't translate well,
Mm-hmm.
but other women seeing her able to do it on her own, there is a seething there. She
And
must be
men
doing
too.
something wrong. Men seeing her do it on their own
Well,
when
that.
they have been dependent on, they have been having
Mm-hmm.
to do all of these things. It creates a rift, unfortunately, a
Well,
social rift.
for the men in particular, right? Like their white folk probably be questioning it first of all, but second of all, the men folk who have been told, and especially with Martin Luther of it all, like, oh, you men are the spiritually superior people. And this is a time period where wealth, like if you're a wealthy person, means God loves you. Like that is directly God's favor, right? They
Hmm.
literally believe that like if you are poor, that is a punishment by God. Like, because you're a bad person, you dirty pores. Which is so funny that flip flop, because, before it was the other way around,
Hmm.
especially according to the original teachings, right? But like you would see, like, oh, like kings would give up their crowns to become monks, and that was considered honorable. Like, wow, good for them. But like, by this point, it's like, oh, you're a poor, you must have done something wrong to end up
It's your
born into a
own moral
poor.
failing being a poor.
Correct. Pick
Sounds
yourself up by the bootstraps, ma'am. And like so,
very
and when
familiar.
you're, and then when you have a woman who's by all means should not be able to do any of this, right? It's like, oh, and oh wait, but she is, and she don't have another lady to do all the stuff for her, and you're like,
Hmm.
and it's like, but my penis, like,
My
but
power,
like,
my penis
if she,
power.
if she
Oh,
can do it, then what's the point of this thing? If I'm
exactly.
not better than her,
Exactly.
and it's like that ass, and you're like, it's like her existence threatens their actual like identity as a man.
That I've
Like,
never understood, but like I see it happening. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
it still happens today.
It still happens today, and it's annoying.
It's why, like, when, people be gay, these men get so pissed. It's like, literally, mind your business. Like, is this hurting you? And then, to their heads, yes, it is. Because it's like, if everything I know and was taught is a lie, then what's the point of this thing?
Right.
And you're like, you can still use it however you want, bud. But, like, we're just doing our own thing. But, like, no, they have to feel superior. So, like, I would dare say that the men are like, wow, nope, this can't. The only way she could be this prosperous, that she could be doing this well, is if something is fucked up here. Something is fucked up, guys. That's what he's saying. You got this guy who's closeted. He comes in and he's like, okay, guys, you know that Katharina bitch? Something's fucked up because I can't even get it up anymore to fuck my wife, which I always did. And, and she's rich. She must be working with Satan.
Working with
the other guys.
Devil.
And the other guys are like, yes, that's why you keep getting on your knees. Because you're just so weak because she's draining your assets. Yes. Features the meaning of being a flamer.
I die. Wow, deceased.
Like, everyone's like, instead of saying like, yeah, they're like, yeah.
Yes. Oh my god.
9. She must be. I don't know. We're dangerous territory now.
I'm
999.
cutting the fuck out of that. Love you, but no.
Anyway.
By 1614, she appears in the Leonberg tax register as a tax-paying, independent citizen in her own right. Evidence that by the standards of her town, she was neither a pauper nor a social outcast, but a self-sufficient older woman of some small property. Life before the persecution, reputation, talents, and standing. It is worth pausing on what Katharina Kepler's daily life actually looked like in the years before the accusations, because the later trial record, shaped by hostile testimony and legal exaggeration, has often obscured the more mundane reality.
He was not, as older and more sensationalized accounts once claimed, a professional witch doctor, or a woman who made her living primarily from magical healing. Modern historical research has found no solid evidence that she supported herself chiefly through healing work. Rather, she appears to have done what countless women of her era and station did. She prepared herbal remedies and tonics for her own use, and on occasion shared or sold them to her neighbors, who came asking for help with common ailments. I mean, like you do, right? Like,
that's normal.
Right? Like, we do that now. Like, you might, like, for example, I don't know, maybe your house has the flu, right? And your house had the flu, right? And your, like, like that neighbor down the road or whatever, like, she knew, like, now her kids are getting sick and she knows that your kids are, like, over it now. And she's like, hey, girl, like, we're so tired. Like, I don't want to go to the store. Do you happen to have some NyQuil? And then you're like, sure, here you go. Or she might go like, hey, girl, I feel like, could you go pick up some NyQuil and leave it outside? I'll leave money out there. And
exactly.
Like, that, it's not weird. Like, that's not a business, And I don't know. Anyway, this was utterly This was utter. This was utterly unremarkable behavior. In a world without professional medicine accessible to ordinary people, herbal knowledge was a normal, semi-domestic skill passed between women, not evidence of occult power. Katharina's true distinguishing traits, by contemporary accounts, were less mystical and just simply abrasive. She had, by all descriptions, a sharp tongue, a strong will, an evident willingness to involve herself in the business and disputes of her neighbors. She was known to speak her mind bluntly, to hold grudges and to pursue her own interests and grievances vigorously, including notably filing a lawsuit for slander against one of her accusers rather than passively accepting the rumors being spread about her. I mean, so she's a Karen.
Get it,
Like,
girl. No, 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 no.
I mean,
No,
she a
no.
little
She
bit.
stood up for herself. That's not a
I mean, she stood
Karen.
up for herself. No, but like, there's like, I don't know. I could see it a little bit. You're like, okay, she's just like one of those people. Like, do you know who I am? I mean, she's the daughter of a mayor, and you're like, okay, I
I
could see it a
mean, a
little
little bit.
bit.
I could see
But
it a
I'm not
little bit.
giving her.
I don't
My
think so.
point was more that just even if that's true, like you don't deserve to die for that. Like that's crazy. Um, but also filing a lawsuit for slander against like her accusers. I mean, because if you don't like in this era, as we're going to see, that's dangerous. Like
She's got to protect
if
her
you
ass.
right, you have to protect your ass. If you think I'll just be merciful and let it go, nope. The
You're gonna
court could look
fucking
at that
die.
and be, well, the court will look at that and go, oh, she didn't fight back against it. Must mean she really is a witch.
Must mean she's guilty.
Must mean it. Otherwise, she'd go to court and prove it. And, she'd sue her. I wouldn't let someone talk about me like that. Right. Like, so it's a little different, and there's some real consequences that are going to happen. So, in a small, closely watched town like Leonberg, where a widow's survival dependent, and that's the other thing too, right? Like, this isn't like today. Like, she has to fight tooth and nail for everything, right?
Mhm.
She just got used to it, right? And maybe she took it a little too far, right? She got too comfortable with it
Possibly.
because no one's died yet, right? She's always figured it out. Again, no reason to kill someone. But anyway, and so part of her survival, unfortunately, did mean she should be maintaining good relations with those around her. And this combination of independence, bluntness, and
Litigiousness.
yeah, I'm so tired. Litigiousness made her memorable and to some irritating. She was also, by the time of her accusations, one of the oldest women in her town, a widow without a husband's protection, and perhaps most consequentially of all, the mother of a spectacularly famous son. Johannes Kepler had by 1610s become one of the most celebrated mathematicians and astronomers in Europe. He served as the imperial mathematician at the court in Prague and later in Linz, corresponding with the leading scholars of the age, and had already published groundbreaking astronomical work, including the Astronomia Nova, which new astronomy, which had laid out what are now known as the first two laws of planetary motion. In a law, in a law, in a small Württemberg town, having produced such a son was a source of both local pride and, as often happens in these tightly bound communities, no small amount of envy and resentment because hate is gonna hate.
Yes, and I don't understand it. I don't understand it. It's just like, well, why can't my kid? Must have been the devil. Like, fucking what?
No, because your kid's a fucking idiot. That's why. Because you're a lazy shit and you weren't a good parent. How about that?
Stop having your kid
And
eat lead and maybe they'll grow a brain cell or two.
And we're gonna see, like they didn't have the best relationship because she was kind of a hard ass mom, and maybe you were just letting your kid chase puss puss. I don't, I don't know. So Katarina's fame by association may have made her simultaneously more protected because that's what my thought would be. I'm like, but like, are you gonna fuck with that, right? Like, are you gonna fucking find out? Because her son's growing influence and connections. I mean, he knows the freaking king, like the Holy Roman Empire. Like,
Yeah.
like that's not a small thing.
No,
I mean,
not.
like we know this is a chuckle fuck of a country, but like
that is. Feel that.
But it also made her more exposed because of her prominence age, sharp tongue, and evident independence made her a conspicuous target when suspicion needed somewhere to land, as we have seen the last few episodes. There was one further, almost eerie coincidence that fed directly into what followed. Johannes Kepler had written, years earlier, a speculative and partly autobiographical work of early science fiction called Somnium. The Dream, right? That's what it's called, The Dream. Somnium. The Dream. Which circulated, I like mine better. Somnium. The Dream. Which circulated into manuscript among friends and acquaintances well before its eventual posthumous publication. The story involves a young man's fantastical journey to the moon. Aided by the spirits, his mother, herself, skilled in herbal medicine, is able to summon baby Kepler.
Well, shit.
Kepler. Damn it. And I think we're gonna get into it, but he also kind of wrote that his mom was kind of a bitch.
Okay.
Yeah. Not like, it's just like one of those things like teen angst almost. Like, like college, you're like, okay, my mom was like my mom was just like so mean. You guys think she's great because I'm great. No, she was just fucking mean all the time. And then people are like, oh. In that little science fiction thing, there was this lady who was making like fucking potions, right? Oh. So yeah, Kepler had drawn loosely on his own mother's real herbal knowledge in sketching these fictional characters. When the manuscript circulated locally, some readers in and around Leonberg did not read it as fiction, but as a kind of confession or autobiography, taking the herb-wise woman of the story to be a description of the real Katharina Kepler. Sorceress, in fact, rather than just a literary invention.
The hell.
Yeah, here we go. This misreading, whether born of genuine confusion, let's be real, malice.
Genuine confusion, possibly, because there are morons in this world. You give them something that is written and they believe it just because it is written, or it's on the internet, or it's in a headline or something like that.
But they want to believe it. That's the other part. They want to believe it because of their malice.
True.
Right? Because they want, like, they're eating babies under the Pizza Hut. That proves why. I always knew they were bad people. No. And then some people are like, I'm so glad this rumor is going around because I hate these people. And again, like, not because they believe it, right? But anyway, this appears to have supplied, no matter what the case was, or both, appears to have supplied fresh kindling, pun intended, to the rumors that were already smoldering in town.
The immediate spark for the first 1615 accusation was mundane in the way that so many witchcraft accusations across early modern Europe were mundane. A personal quarrel that curdled into something far more dangerous once framed in the language of sorcery. Katharina had a falling out over a business matter with a neighbor named Ursula Rainbold, the wife of a local glazier. Ursula, who suffered from a chronic illness, later claimed that a bitter herbal drink Katharina had given her during their dispute was in fact a poisoned witch's brew that had...
So, first off, I have questions, Ursula. I have questions, okay?
I know.
Because this is me, the openly flamboyant German judge. Ursula, honey, you said you hate this bitch. Why are you drinking shit?
True.
If like for real, like if I'm in the middle of an argument with my neighbor, like, you dirty cunt, you are always ruining my. Oh, can I take a sip? gross. This shit's gross. Like, what are you doing? It doesn't make sense to me.
Gross.
Like, why? And or they send it to you, Urs, and you're like, Miss Ursula, and you're like, oh, this person I just had a dispute with, and they just left random weird drinking stuff on my front porch. I should drink that. What the fuck are you doing? What
That's
the like? That doesn't
crazy.
make sense. Already holes in your story, babes. Already holes in your
Yeah,
story.
but apparently, this poisoned witch's brew caused her prolonged pain, weeping, and other afflictions.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. She
Mm-hmm.
took
He
her
called you an alcoholic and you drank too much wine, you
pretty
goddamn lush.
much. She took her complaint to the local ducal sub-bailiff, demanding compensation for her suffering and accusing Katharina of having harmed her through malevolent magic.
Oh,
What
she's the Karen.
what the period called maleficium.
Ooh.
The complaint might have gone nowhere in a calmer administrative climate. But Leonberg in 1615 was under the authority of a particular local official, Lutherus Einhorn, who served as Vogt, bailiff or governor, of the town from 1613 to 1629. Einhorn proved an especially zealous prosecutor of suspected witches. Over the course of his tenure, he brought accusations of sorcery against 15 women in the town, of whom 8 were ultimately burned at the stake. That is a high accusation rate.
Yeah,
To
but
death.
you know what? Philip Adolph's got a bigger score, babes.
He does. That he
You
do.
know,
That he do.
120, at least 127.
But
Oh, if you're-
this is also tiny town. This
Yeah.
is not big city. This is not
Still not good.
No,
Still not
is
looking
bad.
good for it.
This
Not looking
bad.
good.
He was acting, to be fair in the broader context, very much in keeping with expectations of both the ducal government and much of the local public, who had themselves called for investigations into suspected sorcery. The demand for witch hunting in this period often came from below, from frightened and aggrieved communities, as much as from above. Complicating matters further, Einhorn was himself a relative of Ursula Reinbold, giving him a personal as well as an official stake in pursuing the case vigorously.
Whoop, there it is.
Whoop, there it is.
There it is. It's our good old friend nepotism. Like
Once the accusation was formally lodged, it began to snowball in the way that early modern witch accusations characteristically did. Testimony was gathered from other townspeople. Ultimately, some 24 witnesses were drawn into the proceedings, many of whom offered secondhand rumor, long-standing grudges, and half-remembered local gossip reframed as evidence of diabolical activity. Good God, these people. Katharina was said to have appeared to people in the shape of a goat-like apparition, to have cursed neighbors who then fell ill or suffered misfortune, to have passed through locked doors to be responsible for sickness or death of livestock. None of this testimony rested on direct, verifiable observation. It was the accumulated residue of years of small frictions, dislikes, and unexplained misfortunes in a tightly wound community. Now, given a supernatural explanation that the culture of the time had made readily available, this was, it is worth remembering, an era in which learned demonological treatises circulated widely and gave communities a ready-made vocabulary and evidentiary framework for converting ordinary bad luck, illness, and interpersonal conflict into proof of a pact with the devil.
Thanks, Heinrich.
Thanks, Heinrich. But you have to think, this thing, they read it.
Mm-hmm.
It told them that none of this is their fault. It's a witch.
Yep.
It's not life. It's a witch. It's it's not just, a string of bad luck. It's a witch. There has to be somebody to blame. And people are more apt to go for something physical, tangible that they can blame more than take one, personal accountability, or two, be able to just shrug off some of the bullshit that life has to offer.
Mm.
It
And the thing
just,
was, at least before they used to be like, it must be a test from God. But now it's like, nope, it's just got to be someone else's fault. Like
exactly.
that's where it changed, you know.
Real
And
quick.
it's not the first or last time that this will happen.
No.
But you know,
Now, Katharina did not respond passively. In a move that reveals a good deal about her temperament, she countered by filing a lawsuit for slander against her accuser, a bold and legally risky gambit in an environment thick with witch hunting fervor, since it meant formally engaging the machinery of law rather than simply trying to let the matter fade. And honestly, I applaud her for this because
yeah.
she's how old at this point?
Oh,
She's
right. But
she's old as fuck. She has
yeah.
been a widow, a financially
Mm-hmm.
independent widow. So she has been dealing with some shit.
Well,
She
I
has
mean,
been
what?
going through some shit.
Yeah, and like, when did we say she was born? You know,
15.
it was 15. What? 47. So she's almost 70
Yeah,
in a time where most people didn't make it to like 40. Yeah, like so. I mean, good for her, but like also because she's probably taking care of herself and drinking fucking herbs and shit. But like that's not witchery. That's just she's on the kale diet. But I
exactly.
mean, but that being said, I mean, on the flip side, it's not like she has a choice, right? Because again, we just talked about how like if she doesn't fight back, she's doomed anyway, right? So, I mean, I don't blame her. Like, because what other choice does she even really have? You know, like she doesn't have one. So some of this could have been just like her own pride, but like I also think it's equally like, oh well, there. What are you going to do? Roll over and die? Because
You
that's
think
what'll
that
happen.
she would just roll over and die? She lived through
No.
a punchy drunk of a
Mm,
husband.
oh,
She
oh yeah,
lived
and then
through having to bury her babies.
mm-hmm.
She's not
Yeah,
gonna let this fucking bitch just like walk all over her.
this
Absolutely the
fucking
fuck not.
like, who the fuck you think you are, Ursula?
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
bitch, you threw up because you goddamn pregnant. Like, I ain't got nothing to do with me. Close your legs next time. Like,
Oh.
oh no. But, so, according to some accounts, Einhorn himself, in a fit of drunken anger, because of course, attempted to browbeat a confession out of her at sword point.
Good lord. She's in her 70s. What the fuck?
Like, oh my god. Katharina refused to yield. She's like, do it, bitch. Just like that. You're gonna do like I got it. Here's the scene. Like he's like, you little what you fucking did, you cunt. And she's like, do
Prove
it,
it.
do it, pussy. Fucking stab me, bitch. Do it, cause fuck you. This podcast is now rated R. So,
It always was.
but in 1615, the 1615 case did not, in the end, result in her arrest and imprisonment at the time. So hooray! She
Huzzah.
didn't get huzzah, huzzah, but it placed her formally on record as a suspected witch because double jeopardy ain't a thing. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you. Mm-hmm. Um. So through the years of simmering suspicion, unresolved rumor, and now Einhorn's continuing tenure as Vogt, and ya done made him mad, for what came next. Several broader currents of the period fed into the danger that Katharina faced. The years around 1615 and 1621 fell within the height of that European witch hunting craze we've been going over for so long now. A period during which, as we've discussed, tens of thousands of people, the overwhelming majority of them women, were formally tried for witchcraft across the German speaking lands in particular. Roughly 3/4 of those accused in German territories during this era were female, and the lands as a whole accounted for a hugely disproportionate share of all European witch trials and executions. Württemberg itself, though, somewhat less severe in its prosecutions than some of the neighboring Catholic territories. Again, not ripping on the Catholics, okay? That's not what this says. But, as we saw, Philip Adolph did a lot of damage. Anyway. Yeah. Anyway, though this region, of course, was far from immune to the panic, compounding the general atmosphere of fear. The atmosphere of fear. That's fun. These years also saw the early stages of the devastating 30 Years of War. I wish we had like an echo thing for that.
We're gonna need it.
30 Years War, beginning in 1618, along with the reoccurring outbreaks of plague, a climate of instability, mortality, anxiety that historians have long linked to spikes of witch persecution, since communities under stress often sought, supernatural explanations, and honestly, more recently, because we see this now too, of course, the McCarthy of it all. Human scapegoats for their suffering, right? It doesn't need to be real. It's all fake news. Unfortunately, we're familiar with this concept. Correct. So, Katharina Kepler's actual talents, just as like a side note, insofar as the historical record allows us to reconstruct them, were firmly rooted in practical domestic tradition of early modern herbal medicine, rather than anything resembling organized sorcery. She was skilled, self-taught, in the manner typical of women of her generation station, in identifying, preparing, and administering herbal remedies for common complaints, such as aches, fevers, digestive troubles, and countless minor and major ailments, for which formal university-trained physicians were simply inaccessible to ordinary rural and small-town people. This kind of knowledge, as we have discussed to death, was passed down informally between women, learned through observation, trial, and shared local wisdom, and it occupied an ambiguous cultural space, useful and valued in daily life, yet also, in a suspicious climate, easily reinterpreted as evidence of forbidden and demonic knowledge. In which we love that, because the chick knew that mint helps an upset stomach, which anyone could figure out.
Or making a ginger tea helps, with a lot.
All right, and eating fruits keeps your teeth in your fucking head because you don't have the scurvy.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. Anyway, yeah. That's all evidence, though, right? That she must be a witch.
Has to be.
Has to be a witch. The same tonic that might, in a good year, earn her the gratitude of a sick neighbor could, in a year of heightened suspicion and personal animosity, be recast as a poisoned potion, or, I don't know, a bitter brew. Ursula. We don't like her here.
We don't like her.
Precisely what happened, speaking of, precisely what happened with Ursula Reinbold. Her herbal knowledge, in other words, was a genuine skill and a genuine source of local reputation. But it was a double-edged one. And I just thought of this, too. Of course, she probably knew a lot of this because her father was an innkeeper. Because people who travel sometimes go under the weather. right? Having stuff there for them because they had to stop because they're not feeling good, you know? Like, of
Stop because they're
course
not
they would
feeling good. Need to
stock
stock them
up
up
on
on
them.
their travels. Like,
All right. Like you're kind of like the gas station man. Like you kind of have to have that stuff on hand. Um, so in but it made her you that being said, it made her useful to her community and simultaneously marked her as someone whose private knowledge and practices could not fully be monitored or controlled by her neighbors, a source of both value and unease in roughly equal measure. Beyond her herbal knowledge, what might loosely be called her other talent, if it can be called that, was her formidable strength of character. And it's giving Goldvig vibes, right? So here we
it
are going kind of full
does.
circle,
It
right?
really does. Because she's
Because,
like,
mhm.
try me. Fucking try me.
But also, let's talk about the story of Goldvig one more time, right? Like, what was Goldvig's whole deal? She shows up, right, and she knows all this magic, and the dudes are pissed because they both are like, "Whoa, so cool!" But then also because of their own greed and shit, go like, "Oh, she's making us feel this way," and also, she doesn't exactly show us like she can't be showing us all of it, right? And so what do? They torture her
They burn
and
her
so
at the stake thrice.
try to make her confess. So like I do, it's interesting. It's an interesting parallel, right?
It is.
So she was, by every surviving account, yeah, sharp-tongued, direct, unafraid of confrontation, and willing to assert her own interests through the legal system rather than simply submit. In the context of her, she's so Scorpio. Like,
Very.
it's very,
Now
it
you
comes off.
can't unsee it. You're welcome.
No, I'm like, God, so my husband's also a Scorpio, right? Like, and again, like, man, sometimes like I go, it's hard sometimes, I'm like, why?
Mm-hmm.
I don't like, so apparently, fun fact, I'm Taurus, and I'm like, okay. And it's funny because like someone's like, oh, you must be a Virgo. And I'm like,
No.
no, no, apparently I'm a Taurus. Oh, I'm supposed to be stubborn and like unwilling to admit that I'm wrong. I'm like, but like the Virgos are supposed to be like those like idealists who believe in the good in people. And I am. I'm like,
No,
honey,
no, the fuck I'm
I just
not.
want to help. But like Lafayette is supposed to be a Virgo, and he's just like the golden retriever of them all. But I'm like, but it's funny. I'm like, no, I'm not. I don't fit the box, but Dylan sure do. And so does she, because I'm like, man, this is Dylan in a past life.
Oh,
So, in the yeah. So, in the context of her eventual imprisonment and interrogation, this same resilience manifested as an almost unbreakable composure. Which, God, now again, that's the image in my head. But now she's got a literal sword like in her like leg, and she's like, "Do it, bitch, just do it. Can't do it." Anyway, she's just God. Anyway, even when shown the instruments of torture and threatened explicitly with their use, she refused to confess anything, declaring in a statement preserved in the trial records that her interrogators could do with her what they wished, and that even if they tore every vein from her body, she would have nothing to confess, and that she was prepared to die on that truth, trusting that God would, after her death, reveal the injustice and violence that they have done to her.
damn.
Good for her.
Fuck.
Like,
I want to be her when I grow up. Fuck.
I know. God. Like, I'm in love.
I know.
Dylan, is that you? And this was not naivete or resignation, right? She's not like, well, just do it. Or like not like she didn't know what they were about to do, right? It was, by the standards of her time, genuinely remarkable act of self-possession. under the conditions designed specifically to break the will of the accused. And God, Slay Queen, love you. We
Love
love
her.
you.
Love her
Love
so much.
her.
The relationship between Katharina Kepler and her famous son was, by most accounts, neither simple nor sentimental in the way that popular retellings sometimes suggest. For much of his adult life, Johannes Kepler had lived at a considerable physical and, arguably, emotional distance from his difficult, headstrong mother. After completing his studies at the University of Tübingen, Tübingen,
Tubingen. I don't
Tübingen.
know. Tubingen.
Ah. After completing his studies at the University of Tübingen, where he had been drawn towards the Copernican sun-centered model of the cosmos by his teacher Michael Maestlin, Kepler had built a career and a life far from Leonberg, first as a teacher in Graz, then as an assistant to the great observational astronomer Tycho Brahe in Prague, and eventually as imperial mathematician at the court of Rudolf II before relocating to Linz. He had, by most accounts, kept his contact with his mother relatively limited during the years of his rising scientific fame, a distance that some historians have read as deliberate, if perhaps uncomfortable. It was a choice to keep some space between his own reputation and his mother's contentious local standing. Yet, when the threat to Katharina's life became undeniable, Kepler's response was neither distant nor half-hearted. Upon learning of the seriousness of the 1615 accusation, he set aside a substantial portion of his own scientific work, no small sacrifice for a man at the height of his intellectual productivity, to take up her defense.
Like, to be fair, I could see her being kind of she's not a soft mommy,
No.
She's a tiger mom. She's hard. And I'm sure there's part of him who's like, yeah, part of the reason I am who I am is because of her. But like, it's not a touchy-feely relationship.
No.
And even if you're successful, there's probably a little part of you who goes, yeah, but I wasn't given like a choice.
Correct.
Like, and while it's a complicated feeling, right? You're like, on the one hand, success, right, and stability, but like also, it wasn't your choice, and like you can't say that you really did this on your, it's just different. It's different than when someone's just, I made this decision, they're supportive of you, versus, yeah, she supported him. Sure, she helped pay for his schooling and everything, but like, it's like you're going there.
Correct.
And, you know, I'm sure there were times where she's like, she's not going to be like the one who says, I love you so much. She's not going to be the one
No,
who
she's an iron
apologizes for,
mom.
yeah. And so it's like, I'm sure this is proof that he appreciates his mom. But up until that point, it's probably hard to be around her because I'm sure they fought. I'm like, I've seen this relationship before. I've seen this,
So he sought counsel from lawyers and theologians associated with his old university at Tübingen and enlisted the direct legal assistance of Christopher Besold, a jurist and former student friend who provided crucial expertise in navigating the legal complexities of witchcraft law. In December 1616, as the atmosphere in Leonberg remained dangerous, Kepler took the significant step of removing his mother from the town altogether, bringing her to live with him in Linz, where she remained under his protection for roughly 4 years. Kepler's feelings about his mother during this period were genuinely complicated, and the sources do not permit a simple portrait of unconditional filial devotion. He is recording as having expressed real ambivalence about her role in provoking her own troubles, at one point remarking that she was, in some sense, the author of her own lamentable misfortune, a comment that reflects his awareness that her sharp tongue Her willingness to quarrel with neighbors and her general lack of caution had helped create the conditions for the accusations against her, even as he remained convinced correctly that she was not actually guilty of witchcraft. This is an important nuance. Kepler's defense of his mother was not built on a claim that she was a saintly, universally beloved woman, wrongly persecuted by pure malice alone. It was built on the more sophisticated, and in some ways, more difficult argument that whatever her personal faults, her temper, her tactlessness, her contentiousness, none of these amounted to evidence of a pact with the devil or of actual malevolent sorcery. He was, in effect, defending due process and evidentiary standards as much as he was defending an idealized image of his mother. When Katharina returned to Leonberg in the summer of 1620, evidently believing or hoping that the danger had passed, she was arrested almost immediately. Kepler's response was, once again, to drop his other obligations and devote himself to her defense.
And how messed up is that, right? Like you go through the trial and you get through it and then you try to go home and you're arrested again for the same fucking thing because they're like, we don't like the verdict of that one.
No, and that just, to me, that's the petty shit.
And that's why we have things in our constitution and in law enshrined saying
Double
you
jeopardy. You can't charge them for the same thing twice.
Because there are are there cases where people do really bad things and they get away with it? Yes, but and you can't try them again because you already tried them once. Yes, it's a real, and that's why our legal system sometimes is so slow because they want to make sure that they've got everything right. Because if they fuck up and they know that person did it, then they're going to get away with it. However, this is the alternative. This is the alternative where literally you did nothing wrong, and because the person who's in power don't like you, don't like your fucking face, he goes, let's try that again.
Exactly.
Right. So, and poor Kepler, right? Because he's
that sucks. Damn it, Mom, why didn't you just stay? Fuck.
So he traveled between Linz and Württemberg repeatedly over the following years, effectively commuted across considerable distances to manage her legal case in person. Because, it's not like they can zoom in.
Nope.
Yeah. And hire and coordinate additional lawyers and eventually compose and deliver an extensive written legal defense on her behalf. It's one of those things that I think that if he doesn't show up, she gets convicted. If he's there, they know how important he is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little harder, And I think this is also a case where they're trying to wear him down, right? Wait
Correct.
for him to fuck up, and not be in town. Or make him somehow choose, right? Which is kind of messed up. That's real messed up if that's the case. But remarkably, even in the midst of his exhausting and, let's be honest, very expensive ordeal, Kepler did not entirely abandon his scientific work. He managed through these same years to complete and publish his Harmonics Mundi, or the Harmony of the World, in 1619, the work in which he articulated what is now known as his third law of planetary motion, one of the greatest achievements of the scientific revolution itself, produced in the shadow of his mother's mortal danger. And isn't that kind of sad? That one of the things that we use right now, to study the cosmos, right? Fundamental laws,
mm-hmm.
was done in the shadow of this kind of bullcrap, where a lady's going to get burnt for no other reason than people don't like her.
Then she's a cantankerous old biddy.
At the court hearing in 1621, the trial records note with a certain grim formality that Katharina Kepler appeared before the court Quote, with the assistance of her son, Johann Kepler, mathematici, an unusual and telling detail, since it meant that one of the most famous intellectuals in Europe stood personally at his elderly mother's side in a rural Württemberg courtroom, arguing a case that hinged not on his scientific reputation, but on careful, methodical, legal, and evidentiary reason. My God, I can't talk there. Kepler's written defense was later reorganized by historians as genuinely sophisticated piece of legal argument, which because like apparently this man can just do it all. Like
As he does.
he does the math, he does the cosmos, and he's also a lawyer, and he also an author and a science fiction novelist.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Everything is math. If we want to break it down, everything is math, and that's probably where his brain is. It's not necessarily black and white thinking. It is always in everything has a solution.
And speaking of that, I was just going to say, this is honestly very dangerous for him to be supporting his mom, right?
Correct.
Not because, oh, it could hurt his reputation. No. Because this is a time period where math, like, think about what he's doing, right? The star shit alone sounds like witchery to me. You know? People now have a hard time they think astronomy and astrology are the same,
No, they are very different.
And that's now. Back then, math was literally considered magic at one point. Like John Dee of Elizabethan fame was considered a sorcerer for his math, like literally math. Pythagorean of the triangle fame, had a cult.
Correct.
Yeah, like a literal cult.
We have a triangle cult. All hail the triangle.
Because they believed it was like unlocking the secrets of the universe, and like that was magic, right? That you could be immortal.
Geometry is sacred regardless, and it's all part of math. Math is the language of the universe.
But it's just like when our relationship right now with math, modern, right, is that it's the exact opposite of magic to most people, right? Yeah. It's literally the proof that magic doesn't exist. It's like, see, you could anything with math, and it's like back then, literally the opposite. It was
correct.
And so like if she goes down, he could too, because he's actively,
yeah,
like Merlin, like
Merlin.
I mean, like the Harmonicus Mundi. That sounds like a grimoire. Like,
I mean, I could see it, but at the same time, it's also one of those things that's just like, ah.
I think it's like, well, this is a weird time. And I think that, like, yeah, in the court that he's in, well, even like then, like the emperor he's serving, it's a weird occult museum, like this is an era where this crap is blurred at best.
It's still blurred at best.
It's still blurred at best, but like especially now. So like if you're in this small town community, right, you don't have the emperor and his like goons to like physically protect you. If they decide to execute both of you. I'm just saying, good for him. And I think this is proof that he maybe has more in common with his mother than he'd like to admit. Because he's like, no, I'm right, and like y'all are dumb bumpkins, then I'm going to defend my mom. Like, it sounds like
let me show you why you're wrong.
Exactly. Like, I think we have more in common with Mama than we care to admit.
Quite possibly.
So anyway, he dismantled the internal inconsistencies because he's literally like, see, let me show you why you're wrong.
See, I tell you.
People love that. He dismantled the internal inconsistencies of the prosecution's case point by point. God, He's going to be popular, I'm sure. And offered plausible, natural medical. I mean, I love him for this, right?
Yes.
But he offered plausible, natural, and medical explanations for the supposed magical illnesses and misfortune his mother was being accused of causing. He's like, yeah, that bitch is an alcoholic. Like,
The fuck?
problems, mystery solved, guys. She was pregnant, and she like she should close she should close her legs. And his mom's like, that's what I said. Let me draw you a diagram of why this works. And terrible. So, um, but anyways, all of this is drawing on that same, evidence-based habits of a mind that had made him a great astronomer. He also took direct personal action to improve his mother's conditions during her imprisonment, successfully petitioning to have her moved out of the harsher prison settings, which is an understatement. I'm going to be completely honest.
Yes.
And into the quarters guarded by civic guard and somewhat more humane arrangement, which makes me concernicus, Courtney. She wasn't even guarded. What does that mean?
Was she put in an oubliette or something?
I'm just thinking, so was she just in this room, chained to something, and people could just do whatever to her?
Pretty much.
Like,
That's the thing with the prisons and all of this shit at this time. It's not like how we would think, oh, you got guards and you get 3 hots and a cot and everything like that. No. These people, they were imprisoned.
And it's giving Maria Antoinette a bit at
It
the end of
is.
her life.
It is,
Like,
but
oh.
these people's families had to go and feed them because they were not being fed. They were
for sure.
They were literally, when I say, they were imprisoned, they were kidnapped and placed in a room, chained to a wall. They were shitting on themselves. They were pissing on themselves. They didn't have access to a bath or anything like that, let alone clean water or food. Anything that had to be taken care of, their family had to do it.
Well, right. And this is so first of all, this is why we have a constitution and things that protect you from this. Second of all, this is also when you look at in history, you'll see oh yeah, this rich guy was in prison, but it really actually wasn't that bad because he had all of his books and all these luxuries and stuff. Yeah, if you were rich, because your family provided that, you could just buy that stuff for yourself and bring it in. If you were a poor, not so much, clearly. And also when you look at someone like Marie Antoinette, right, who falls from grace, clearly has no money by the end of that. And she's having literal uterine cancer and she's bleeding from her vagina all the time. And she can't even get clean rags for herself.
Mm-hmm.
And she has to hide that shit in a wall.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the situation we're dealing with here.
Correct.
Because it's pre-enlightenment. And and clearly they weren't all that enlightened. Anyway.
No.
Yeah. And so, hooray. Apparently she's got some somewhat more humane arrangement, right? Though, still one that required her family to bear, like we were just talking about, the cost. This includes her guards' food, not just her food, right? Her guards' food, heating, and lodging. The financial toll on Kepler was immense. Because again, this is not just some rich family of nobles. This is, he is wealthy, right? But it's all earned. He's a self-made man, right? And it's finite. So the protracted case deliberately dragged out, because this is what they're trying to do, right? Intentionally drag it out, make him give up. It costs artificially inflated through delays, ultimately cost him more than 900 guilders. A sum equivalent, which it's a sum equivalent to more than 2 years of his salary, right? So thousands and thousands of dollars, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and this isn't like, oh, it's like pay 2 years of salary over two. No, like this is like all within like the couple months there, right? Where he got her better conditions. Um, and this is a staggering expenditure for a man whose income, however prestigious his position, was never lavish. I mean, like he's essentially the equivalent of like a professor, like like a really high paid, like chair professor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is normally very good money, but like you're not like a Bezos, you know,
Correct.
like um, and so he was often paid late or incompletely by the strained ducal and imperial treasuries he served because they're getting tired of it too.
Mm-hmm.
Not all of Katerina's children showed the same steadfastness, though. Her son, Christoph, notably, withdrew his support from his mother as the case intensified and moved towards formal trial, apparently unwilling to risk his own reputation and standing by association with an accused witch. Which, gross. Um, Sorry, gross. We can
Very
argue,
gross.
he was just trying to survive and blah blah blah. Sure,
I
gross,
need to
gross.
know if he was the youngest child.
He's not. Margarita's,
Mm,
um, and her daughter, for her part, was unable, whether from practical constraints or her own family, because we do have to remember this, right? I'm less likely to get mad at Marguerite because her husband might not even let her. Like, remember, this is
correct.
that same society. Um,
Her
Also,
mom's
she
ability to move around is a anomaly. It is a
and
huge
Kepler
anomaly.
who's got like no kids. I'm assuming she do, so she's gonna have to run a house. It's a little harder, right? It's a little harder. And I'm sure also, no offense, like her mom just got accused of being a witch, partially because her aunt might have been. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I mean, see, like Kristoff, I'm like, buddy, you're probably not gonna burn, but Margareta, maybe. Um, but but she was unable to leave her household to be with her imprisoned mother during the long months of Katerina's detention, leaving Katerina, by contemporary description, lonely and largely bereft of personal comfort during the imprisonment, even as her most famous son labored on her behalf from a distance. The family, in other words, did not close ranks uniformly around Katerina. And I think that if they see, and that's the other thing that I think this is tragic. I think if they had, this would have ended sooner.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder, like especially like if you're like approaching this like in this manner where it's a lot more legal. That if they all close ranks, oh, okay, like we're not going to wipe out this whole. Are we going to wipe out this whole family? That's a pain in the ass.
No,
Um,
and I have to wonder with honestly from Marguerite, like, yes, I get it. And honestly, she might not have had a choice. But the other son not doing
mhm.
so, that's cowardly.
Yeah, if you had both, I think honestly, dead ass. If you had both boys, no, they wouldn't have.
Correct.
This wouldn't have. I don't think this would have gone on as long as it did. I mean, I could be wrong, but it just, especially since this was coming off more as a family feud. But whereas if especially when he walked away and Marguerite's just kind of not able to show up at all, um, it looks off as more like guilt, like in the public's eye, maybe it's confirming it.
Exactly.
Um, so, and I think that if Kepler hadn't participated, she would have been dead. She would have been long dead.
Oh, she
Um,
absolutely would have been, unfortunately, and I don't think it would have been as well documented as it was. She would have just been another name, an accusation, and date of burning.
yeah. So it is, with Johann standing out as the only child to risk his own reputation, fortune, and time to save her. Like it's really on. It's again, God is the oldest sibling. I can relate. God damn it. Like, it's giving oldest sibling.
It very much is. The full legal ordeal Katharina Kepler endured unfolded across roughly 6 years, though it can be
Oh,
divided into two distinct phases corresponding to the two formal accusations referenced in her biography. The 1615 accusation began, as described above, with Ursula Reinbold's complaint of poisoning by witchcraft, formally lodged with the ducal sub-bailiff of Leonberg, Vogt Lutherus Einhorn, already primed by his tenure of aggressive witch prosecution in the town, took up the case and issued a formal arrest order against Katharina in 1615. Although this phase did not culminate in a full trial and imprisonment at the time, it placed Katharina under a lasting cloud of suspicion generated by a body of hostile witness testimony that would resurface later, and forced Kepler into his first major intervention as his mother's legal champion, working through university contacts at Tübingen and the legal counsel of Christopher Besold. It was in the aftermath of this episode in December 1616 that Kepler removed his mother to the relative safety of Linz. The 1620 accusation proved far more dangerous. When Katharina returned to the Leonberg area in the summer of 1620, she was arrested on August 7th of 1620 at the parsonage in Humaden. Humaden?
oh, so
Humaden.
looking. Yeah,
Humaden?
I'm just looking.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it's Humaden.
Humaden. Okay. At the parsonage in Humaden near Stuttgart, where she had been staying with her daughter. The arrest itself was reportedly a dramatic and humiliating scene, with armed men bursting in during the night to seize her. She was taken first to Gugglingen and held in prison, facing a formal indictment that eventually encompassed some 49 separate counts of alleged witchcraft. An extraordinarily large and evidently padded list of charges drawing on years of accumulated local gossip, grievance, and rumor. What followed was a grinding legal process spanning roughly a year, during which Katharina remained imprisoned and in chains. She was, by the surviving accounts, literally chained to the floor of her cell for more than a year. A physical detail that underscores just how seriously the authorities regarded, or wished to be seen to regard, the danger that she supposedly posed.
She is a 65-year-old woman. Oh my God,
Yes,
damn
she
it.
is. She's old as fuck.
Like, you're so scared. Oh my God. And they're not scared.
No,
That's
they're
the
not.
thing. They're saying they are. This is all about humiliation and putting someone in their place.
Correct.
And as a lesson to everyone else.
So Kepler, working from Linz and traveling repeatedly to Württemberg, assembled his legal team, gathered counter-evidence, and eventually authored a lengthy and carefully reasoned written defense addressing each of the accusations individually, applying both legal argument regarding due process, the reliability and motives of the witnesses, and the proper evidentiary standards for capital witchcraft cases under the legal traditions of the period, and something closer to empirical scientific reasoning, offering natural explanations for supposedly magical harms. The formal court hearing took place on August 20th, 1621, nearly a full year after Katharina's arrest, with Johannes Kepler personally present at his mother's side. As the case reached its most perilous stage, the court moved towards the use of judicial torture, standard procedure under the legal customs of the time for extracting confessions in witchcraft cases, where the accused was typically presumed guilty until a confession, willingly or forcibly obtained, resolved the matter, usually followed by execution. Katharina was subjected to what the records describe as turition, a formal procedure in which the accused was shown and had explained to her the various instruments of torture that would be used as a means of frightening her into confession before actual physical torture began. She was told in explicit detail how she would be tortured. She did not break. According to the trial record, she declared that her captors could do whatever they wished to her, and that even if every vein were pulled from her body, she would still have nothing to confess. That she was prepared to die, maintaining her innocence, trusting that God would, after her death, make the injustice done to her known. This extraordinary steadfastness under the threat of torture, combined with the strength of Kepler's legal defense and the fundamental weakness and inconsistency of the prosecution's evidence, proved decisive. A week after this ordeal, Katharina Kepler was acquitted and released. After 405 days of pre-trial detention, roughly 14 months in captivity. The family, in a bitter final irony common to the legal customs of this period, was required to bear the costs of the entire proceedings themselves, including the fees for her imprisonment, heating, food, and the wages of the 2 guards who watched her day and night throughout her captivity.
Isn't that messed up? Like, it's like,
That's
you're
fucked.
acquitted, meaning you're innocent.
Exactly.
You didn't do it.
You didn't do it.
And yet you owe us for your stay. What the hell?
Is this an inn? Did I stay at a hotel?
This is the worst inn, and I would know. My father was an innkeeper.
I would give 0 stars if possible. Fuck.
Was I allowed to leave? When was I allowed to leave?
Exactly.
The Hilton, this was not, sir. That's crazy. Oh my god. Like, I could understand, like, okay, like, if you want her to eat, you have to pay. Not that I understand it. I'm just saying I could you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's like the audacity of afterward, like, you owe us. Fuck you. We should be suing you.
Exactly.
Like,
no, and it should be, because it was false imprisonment the entire time.
well, false imprisonment's not a thing yet, right?
Correct.
Because we can double jeopardy, we can do whatever we want. A lot of times how these things usually end is either the person it goes through, they die, or the person accusing you dies, or fourth option, you push people to the limit and you get overthrown or something, because they're tired of your shit. And you like harassing a family or something. That's why I said if this family had corralled around her a lot sooner, different story.
Correct.
Different story entirely. I think the community would have seen it, been like, clearly they're going to stick up for their mom. What's this guy doing? Clearly he's a jackass. And Ursula needs to close her legs, like we've been saying.
Something. Fuck.
Turned Ursula into a hoe.
Ursula, hoe. Here's the thing. The description was weeping. It didn't necessarily say that she was actually crying from her eyeballs. It could have been a weeping wound, and everything in me was just like, she's oozing. Fuck.
Oh, no. I like that I've turned into a whore. But
Ursula, you whore. Fuck.
But there's no for the record, I would like to say there is no historical evidence that she was a whore. This is part of my headcanon for funsies. But she was a bitch. Historically proven, was a bitch.
You know what? I need that on a shirt. Historically proven, was a bitch.
Normally, I don't say that about women in history, because 9 times out, the 99% of the time, they weren't bitches. They had every right to be pissed. But, like, in this case, Ursula, girl.
Use a bitch. Fuck.
Use a bitch.
So the trial exacted a profound toll on Katharina Kepler, physically, socially, and psychologically, even though she was ultimately acquitted rather than executed. 14 months of imprisonment, much of it literally chained to the floor of her cell, would have been a severe physical ordeal for any prisoner. But for a woman already in her 70s, It represented a truly formidable trial of endurance. The deliberate use of tuition, the detailed, calculated description and display of torture instruments intended to terrify a confession out of her, was itself a form of profound psychological cruelty. Regardless of the fact that actual physical torture was ultimately not carried out on her.
And
The,
I want to just point out for the record, right? While she was a badass bitch for being like, do it, bruh, of course she was terrified.
no shit.
No shit. Like, hello, they're gonna like do horrible, horrible things to you. It's going to be painful. It was just more of the fact, and it's like some quote I read somewhere a long time ago. It's like, you know, like fear is not the, or bravery is not the absence of fear, but rather standing up despite it.
Correct.
Like, doing something despite the fear. She was, of course, terrified. Of course, there was psychological damage from this, you know, despite
Absolutely.
the badassery.
Absolutely. But she withstood this ordeal without confessing. And it speaks to a remarkable inner resolve and endurance that this kind, it rarely comes without a lasting cost.
Again, she's 75. The
She's
stress on
old.
her body alone, right? Elevated blood pressure for long periods of time, lack of proper nutrition, your body constantly fighting off disease, more than likely, and
Probably,
extreme
needing
temperatures,
sunlight, not having
right?
sunlight. That is necessary for
Vitamin D
y-
deficiencies and like that,
absolutely.
which weird girl are you doing? Because my husband also has a vitamin D deficiency. And I tell him to go get some sunshine. Now he has to take pills
Indeed.
for that. But I'm like,
Indeed.
so I'm like, like, of course it was going to affect her. And I mean, the fact that she's even alive, that's saying a lot.
It really is. And I wouldn't wish this on my
Mm-mm.
worst enemy. Like this is actual inhumane. Absolutely the fuck not. There's no reason.
No.
Now, socially, the trial appears to have left Katharina significantly isolated. As noted before, her daughter, Marguerite, was unable to be regularly present with her during the long imprisonment. And her other son, Christoph, withdrew his support entirely rather than risk association with an accused witch, leaving Katharina, by the accounts of the period, lonely and largely without comfort through much of her ordeal, notwithstanding Johannes's tireless efforts on her behalf from a distance. A formal accusation of witchcraft, even when it ended in acquittal, was rarely something a small community simply forgot. Suspicion, once publicly aired and formally investigated, tended to linger in local memory and social relations long after any court had rendered its verdict.
Which we see that today.
Yes, we do.
I mean, someone could be accused of something, get acquitted, or they were imprisoned, and then it's found out that they didn't do it, and they're released, right? And there's still a stigma on them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, because it's like, even if it's like, well, maybe they didn't do it, but they were in prison for 15 years. They can't come out of that normal, right?
Exactly.
Like, or like there was something about you that made it believable enough that even if you didn't do this, you must have done something, or else people wouldn't have believed that you did it, right?
Exactly. It's a social stigma. And Katerina, it seems reasonable to infer, returned to a community and perhaps even to family relationships, permanently altered by what had happened. The accusation itself had, in a sense, already achieved a sort of social punishment, regardless of the trial's ultimate legal outcome. Now, the financial impact, borne primarily by Johannes rather than Katharina directly, was nonetheless part of the overall ton on the family. The overall toll on the family. The more than 900 guilders the case ultimately cost represented a devastating drain on Kepler's resources, achieved in no small part through the prosecution's practice of artificially inflating costs through delay, a form of financial punishment inflicted on the family regardless of any case of the case's legal merits, since even a wrongly accused defendant's family bore the costs of imprisonment, heating, food, and guards throughout the proceedings. Physically and emotionally depleted by the ordeal, Katharina Kepler did not long survive after her release. She died on April 13th of 1622 at Robwalden, roughly 6 months after her acquittal. A fact that has led many historians and biographers to conclude that the trial itself, even without ending in her execution, effectively hastened her death. Whether through the direct physical toll of prolonged imprisonment in chains at an advanced age, the psychological strain of the ordeal and its accompanying social isolation, or some combination of both. She died, in the assessment of at least one modern account, still effectively ostracized from the community that had turned so decisively against her.
A Disney movie, this is not.
No, this is a dark one, y'all.
Yeah, because even when you're, oh, like, she got acquitted, hooray! Not a happy ending.
Not a happy ending.
There are no happy endings here in the witchcraft trials. What are you
There
talking
are no
about?
happy endings here at the Time Travelers Club podcast.
Like, oh God, it's so true. Like,
It's so true. At least I'm not in tears on this one. I do love her, but I'm not in tears on this one.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, I mean, she lived a long life. I feel bad. I do feel bad, right? Like that the end of it was kind of fucked up, you know. But I mean, she had a good run at least, you know. If nothing else, I hope personally, when she was laying in that bed, you know, from the stress of it all, her body's like giving up on her. She looked out that window, and her last words were, "Fuck you, Ursula." And she
Fuck
died.
that bitch.
They didn't get me. Like, and she was with a little smirk, you know, like
God, I hope so.
with a middle finger, you know, like I hope so. I hope
so.
she's like, they couldn't get me. Ah. So let's talk about the aftermath, right? Um, the family, the family Kepler, goddamn. The Kepler family bore the marks of this ordeal long after Katharina's death. Johannes Kepler, who had put so much of his own scientific work and financial security on hold to save his mother, returned to his astronomical labors, going on to publish his Rudolphine tables, which that's the guy, right? Rudolph, Emperor Rudolph, that's the guy, in 1627. An enormously important set of astronomical tables built on Tycho Brahe's, who we've got to talk about someday because he's wild. Cool bananas, love him. Observational data and Kepler's own laws of planetary motion, which would remain the standard reference for astronomers for generations. He died in 1630, which I think that's sad too.
It is.
8
Honestly,
years.
this took a lot out of both of them.
Yeah. And the worst part is like, so he spent the last years of his life continuing to navigate the political and religious turbulence of the 30 Years' War, a conflict that also disrupted and displaced much of his own family and personal life in the final years. The fracture of the trial exposed within the family, Christoph's withdrawal of support, Margaretta's practical inability to be present, and Johann's singular costly devotion is itself a piece of the family's legacy. a reminder that even a family that produced one of the great minds of the scientific revolution was not immune to the ordinary human calculations of fear, self preservation, and divided loyalty that the witchcraft accusations often provoked in early modern communities. And, like, just to throw this out there, he also spent the last few years of his life in horrible debt.
Yeah.
Like, he literally worked to just keep himself afloat. Like, he was making good money,
He was
but
making good money, but he had to drop
all
so
of that,
much.
mm-hmm, all of that had to go to this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's some later, his last writings, like, personal writings, like, they're pretty grim. Like, he's depressed. Like, it's one of those things like, yeah, I won, I guess. Like, I proved my point, but kind of like at what cost? And I don't think it's like I shouldn't have defended my mom. Not that. It's so much like he had to, but I guess if you have to do that sort of thing, you would hope that it makes change. And it really didn't.
No.
And it's like it didn't really save your mom.
Unfortunately, no.
And even on it, like,
Mm-mm.
it went only as far as paper, because, like, the community didn't care, your own family didn't care, and, like, all that damage had been done, you personally, right? And it's not like, on as a whole, people are like, yeah, this witchcraft stuff's stupid, we should stop doing it.
No.
you
No, they
know
didn't grow up. They didn't learn from their narrow-minded bullshit. They were,
hmm
unfortunately, I think, more charged afterwards because they got their hands smacked and told, no, you're being stupid.
I would argue, and this is something he wouldn't have been able to see, that he did actually make an impact, because he proved, this is like the first case we could come across, right? She did get acquitted, though, right? Like,
Yes.
it was possible. That means that there were people who were starting to doubt, right? And his case is going to be used kind of a lot, right? As, like, hope for other people down the line.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think he saw it in his own lifetime, because it's slow,
Very
right?
slow. History is a very slow moving thing, although I will say it seems to be getting quicker, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's worth noting, too, that the case had a broader institutional aftermath in Württemberg. In the weeks following Katharina's acquittal, the senior counselor of the princely chancellery of Stuttgart, evidently disturbed by the abuses revealed in the handling of her case, issued new rules prohibiting the arbitrary delay of witchcraft proceedings and barring officials from taking action against suspects without proper oversight and consent from higher authorities. Checks and balances.
He can
Like, we
say
need
no.
those. But, like, yes, him, but, like, specifically, okay, guys, like, you can't just, like, hold personal grudges and, like, just hold people hostage. Like, you can't
Correct.
delay crap, just to prove, like, because you're petty. So, also, we can't trust you not to do that. So we're going to assign people who, like, who are impartial, at least in theory, to actually go forward with these cases. Like, you can't be, your cousin needed to close her legs. Like,
Mm-hmm.
damn, Ursula, I have made her a new legacy. Like, I want that to be the new joke of the podcast. It's gonna be like next season, and, like, Ursula, close your legs.
Ursula, close your legs.
Close your legs. It's not poison.
Jeez.
Anyway,
You're nauseous for a different reason.
reason. So,
Your guy gave you the ick. It's okay.
literally. So, but I love this. So, because of her, they invented checks and balances a little bit. Well, just a little. Um, this was a small but tangible institutional reform, traceable directly to the excesses exposed by Katharina's ordeal and her son's forceful, well-documented legal challenge to them. For centuries after her death, Katharina Kepler's own historical reputation suffered a kind of second injustice, despite the fact that her case was one of the best documented witch trials in German history. It received comparatively little serious scholarly attention. And where she was discussed at all, she was often portrayed through a distorting, sensationalized lens as the memorable and damning phrase of the influential historian of science Arthur Koestler, I can't talk, of science, Arthur Koestler, a quote, hideous little woman.
Ugh.
God. Whose sharp tongue and supposedly suspect family background made her villainy almost foreordained. This portrayal treated her essentially as color and backstory for her son's biography. Because of all that made him a great man.
A great man. History
It
is
was
made of great men.
great man, and her only role was to make him a great man, to be the rock in which he stepped upon to reach his heights.
It hurts.
I don't think he would agree with that.
No, I don't think he would agree with that.
No, ma'am. So this portrayal treated her essentially. And all this is, and of course she's also a stock figure of the crone witch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rather than a specific historical individual whose actual life and circumstances deserved investigation on their own terms.
They turned her into Baba Yaga. They turned her into the I'm gonna say this, think heavily quotes, the disgusting aspect of an aging woman.
Well, they turned her into the stereotype of like the hedge witch, not even like Baba Yaga, because Baba Yaga they would not have put on trial.
Well, I say Baba Yaga because Baba Yaga represents everything about the feminine and aging and the wise or cunning woman that is rejected by society.
I could agree to that for sure. I mean, but like for certain, they're making her into a stereotype, right? She's just this old bitch, who should have known her place, but because she couldn't keep that yap shut, she got herself into this. That's the best outlook that they had for a while, right? But like, man, Kepler was a saint for dealing with her. That began to change, though.
Backhanded thought.
Isn't it? Isn't it when you really think about that? It's like, wow, like, man, Kepler was so great despite his mom. And look at, she was such a bitch. But yet, he fought, he was a good son. He still defended her. Even though he didn't have to.
Good Lord.
That's... But that began to change significantly with the historian Olinka Rudblack's 2015 study, The Astronomer and the Witch, Johannes Kepler's Fight for His Mother, a work of serious archival scholarship that reconstructed Katharina's case in a far greater and more sympathetic detail than the prior accounts. God making her a human.
Indeed.
Correcting numerous inherited errors, including the long-repeated but unfounded claim that she had been raised by a witch aunt. Which, I mean, to be fair, I'd be cool with having a witch aunt. I'm just saying. She was not raised by a witch aunt, okay?
Nope.
No. And reframe her not as a sinister figure, but as a fundamentally ordinary widow whose age, independence, sharp tongue, and unlucky circumstances and Ursula's tummy troubles made her a plausible target for accusation in a society primed to find one.
Rublack's work has been widely credited with prompting a broader reassessment of Katharina Kepler's place in the historical record, shifting the emphasis from lurid legend towards a more grounded understanding of how an ordinary woman became entangled in the machinery of early modern witch persecution, and how her son's defense represented an unusually rigorous, evidence-based legal intervention that anticipated, in certain respects, later Enlightenment era skepticism towards witchcraft prosecutions. Katharina Kepler's story has since found expression well beyond academic history. She appears as a central character in the German composer Paul Hindemith's opera Die Harmonie der Welt, which appeared in 1957 and dramatizes the intertwined lives of mother and son, though in a manner that, according to later scholars, leaned into the crone-like caricature rather than the historical nuance. The American composer Philip Glass composed an opera simply titled Kepler, which premiered in Linz in 2009, the very city where Johannes Kepler sheltered his mother and completed some of his most important scientific work. In 2021, a musical opera titled Katharina Kepler focused specifically on her witch trial, premiered in Sforzheim, composed by Volker Implang. That same year, the American author Rivka Galkin published Everyone Knows Your Mother is a Witch, a novel giving Katharina a vivid first-person fictional voice, drawing extensively on Rubleck's historical research and the surviving trial documents to imagine her interior life during the ordeal. A novel that has done a great deal to bring Katharina Kepler's story, as a story in its own right, rather than a mere footnote in her son's biography, to a much wider audience. Locally, Leonberg and its surrounding community have taken steps in recent years to formally memorialize her. A statue depicting a woman with a sickle, dedicated to Katharina Kepler, was erected in the town in 1937. Though, as with much of the earlier cultural memory surrounding her, the specific symbolism and framing of that early memorial reflected the less historically careful attitudes of its own era. More recently, in 2022, the municipality of Eltingen, the very village where Katharina Guldemann had grown up as a child 4 centuries earlier, unveiled a new memorial dedicated specifically to her memory, a marker of the more historically grounded and sympathetic reassessment of her life that has taken hold since Rumblack's scholarship reshaped the field.
In the end, Katharina Kepler's enduring significance lies in the way her story illuminates, with unusual documentary richness, the actual mechanics of an early modern witchcraft accusation, the small interpersonal grudge that could metastasize into a capital charge, the ambitious local official whose zeal shaped the fate of entire households, the vulnerability of an independent, outspoken widow in a tightly bound community, and the extraordinary, costly, and ultimately successful intervention of a son whose scientific rigor and legal persistence proved, in this one instance, more than a match for the machinery of persecution that claimed so many thousands of other lives across the German lands during this era. She was not a witch. She was the best evidence available to history, an ordinary herbalist and a formidable old woman who refused, even under the shadow of torture, to confess to a crime she had not committed, and whose survival owed everything to a son willing to set aside the discovery of the laws that govern the very heavens in order to fight with equal rigor for the life of his mother on earth. This account is drawn from historical sources, including Ulrikas Rubach's The Astronomer and the Witch, Johannes Kepler's fight for his mother, surviving trial records, and other secondary historical accounts of the Kepler family and Leonberg witch trials of the early 17th century.
The witch trials in Germany and more broadly throughout Europe began winding down gradually rather than stopping at a single stroke. A major turning point came from within skepticism about the legal process itself. The Jesuit priest Friedrich Spee, who had personally ministered to condemned witches in Würzburg, published Cautio Criminalis in 1631, a searing critique of torture-based confessions. He argued that torture would make anyone confess to anything, and that trials had become self-perpetuating machines since the accused were tortured into naming further victims. His work circulated widely among jurists and rulers and helped shift elite opinion. Around the same time, legal scholars increasingly questioned the use of Malleus Maleficarum-style evidence standards, and some territorial rulers began requiring higher courts to review and approve any death sentence for witchcraft, which slowed the pace of executions considerably. By the later 17th century, several formal acts and policy shifts brought the trials closer to an end. Electors and princes in various German territories issued edicts restricting or banning torture in witchcraft cases, and central appellate courts, such as the Reichskammergericht, Imperial Chamber Court, began overturning local convictions, undermining the authority of regional witch-hunting courts. Skepticism spread among the educated classes as Enlightenment rationalism took hold, with figures like Christian Thomasius publishing direct attacks on witch trials in the early 1700s, arguing that the crime of witchcraft itself could not be proven to exist. The last confirmed execution for witchcraft in Germany is usually dated to Anna Maria Schweiglin in Kempten around 1775. And by the later 18th century, most German states had formally abolished witchcraft as a capital crime. With all that being said, it's important to note that the legacy of the German witch trials is significant because Germany saw more witch trials and executions than any other European country, making it a central case study in understanding mass persecution, and with a lesson that feels all too relevant. Today, we see the trials reveal how legal systems can be captured by fear, how torture corrupts evidence, and how economic and social tensions, crop failures, plague, land disputes, can be projected onto marginalized or vulnerable people, especially women and people of color.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to despair on that, but we leave you with some hope. Studying their end is just as important as studying their peak. It shows that persecution can be curbed not through one dramatic reform, but through the patient work of legal skeptics, procedural safeguards, and shifting intellectual currents. That history remains a cautionary lesson about due process, moral panic, and the danger of institutions that reward accusation over evidence. And with that, Season 2 has now drawn to a close. We hope you all have enjoyed the ride, all its ups and all its downs. As we've peered into the mysterious lives of Germanic seer women, explored the mythology of Freya, and pivoted to the later Reformation, Counter-Reformation, how insecure men punished women for practicing what they had been taught for thousands of years. Today, we can fortunately talk about these, and we are seeing a resurgence. Women and men alike continue to explore their spirituality and reconnect with the old ways. Next time we'll meet, we'll go over everything we did, just like last time, with a video session where we'll discuss all the things we learned, the people, and wrap it all up in a nice little bow. We'll also discuss what the future for Season 3 holds, because it's going to be a good one.
If you like what you heard today, please give us a positive review on whatever platform you listen to this podcast on. It goes a long way to appease the algorithm gods and get this suggested to others just like you. The more we can connect to our fellow history nerds, the more we can build up this community and keep this show going. And I just want to take like 2 seconds to insert this. It happened a couple weeks ago, but we have finally hit 1,000 downloads. It's a huge milestone.
That's a big
Um,
milestone for us.
and I remember, so we've been doing this for about a year now, just over a year. And when we first started, that first month, we had a total of 4 downloads. 4. And I remember being excited over 4.
We got so
Um,
excited over 4.
and like just like now we're like, hundreds a month. And like it's so weird to kind of see this exponentially growing, right? And we're still very, very small baby podcast, but it's just neat, right? To see this growing, and going, so it's like, farther and farther every time. And so to hit this milestone, it's been about a year. I just want to say thank you to all of you, for listening, for downloading and dealing with our bullshit. um, like between the baby eating jokes, the keeping your leg closed jokes, the suicides, like the sad endings. But y'all are troopers. And like, Courtney said, we're so excited next time to talk about what's to come, because I really think you guys are going to enjoy this. So
I think it will give us, like, we're excited for it. And
yes.
when we're excited for something, we really want to bring it to you guys. So just hang out with us. Keep it going.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do this thing. But just so y'all are aware, as we say every time, we do have a Patreon where you can hang out with us and get exclusive content, like videos where we might try to make some ancient recipes, talk about topics that couldn't fit into the main arcs of the podcast, and just generally being batshit and dumpster fires. All for the price of a latte per month. Research materials and books cost a lot of money, and it takes a lot of time to create this show. So anything that you can provide would be a huge help. Also, we are brainstorming on possibly going live and just playing some games together. I think that would be a huge thing. So come join us while we play some games and we're just enjoying time together and we can talk. That would be huge.
So idea, I'm excited for it. I mean, unfortunately it's not coming out anytime soon. But there's like the Assassin's Creed Hex that's supposed to come out, and that just take place during this time period. But there's also that like 1667 or something like that, Amsterdam.
Yes, and I want to play that so bad.
And I'm like, it fits with this. But then also like Assassin's Creed Origins, baby, where we got Cleopatra, baby.
Yeah, baby.
Like there's so many, and then God of War with the fray of it all.
I love God of War. No, I want to play the new God of War where we are playing.
Yes, I don't care what you goddamn misogynistic men say. I don't want to be a 40-something-year-old mom. F you. They're the badasses.
Damn straight.
Did you see? She was fighting shit way scarier than Kratos was in that little
Absolutely. Clip. I was so excited for that shit. Oh,
she's fighting fucking Sekhmet. She's fighting Sekhmet.
Sekhmet's fucking scary. Sekhmet's scary as shit.
Scary as shit. Fuck you. It's fuck you, Chad. So if you want to see that,
join us. Join our Patreon.
Join us. Yes. And we can't wait to see you again next time if we didn't lose you there. As always, thanks for listening. Bye for now.
Bye, guys.